Hi, my name's Jonathan, and today we're going to be going through an After Effects tutorial on the basics of text and also parenting and how we can use parenting to speed up our workflow. And we're going to be creating a text animation based off a famous Simpsons quote. So just to give you a bit of an idea of the sort of thing we're going to be creating today, I'll just bring up the example file, which is this one here, and this is what we'll be creating.
What do you think, Marge? All I need is a title. I was thinking along the lines of no TV and no beer make Homer something.
Okay, so that's the start of the quote, and there is a bit more to it, but this first intro piece is what we're actually going to be creating today, and then it's going to be up to you to continue on with the quote and animate it in a manner which you please. So we'll just close that down out of the way and we'll go back into After Effects, and the first thing we need to do is to create a new composition. I'm going to call my composition Homer, and I'm going to use the HDTV 1080 25 frames per second preset, which should give us 1920 by 1080 in terms of our resolution, square pixels, and I'm going to ensure that my duration is set to 45 seconds, which is roughly the length of that Simpsons sound. I'll click OK, and here's my composition, and I'll just go down to the zoom area here and I'll change that to fit up to 100% so I can see as much information as possible. The first thing I'm going to do is create a background, and I'm going to use a solid to do that. So I'll right click in the canvas area, go to New, Solid, and I'm going to call this Background. I'll leave everything else set to the defaults. If it says something different in the width and height, just click Make Comp Size and that will ensure that it's the right size. Hit OK, and here's our new solid, which doesn't look all that interesting just yet, so we're going to create a background by using an effect known as Ramp. So I'll right click on the solid and go down to Effect, and we'll look for Generate and Ramp. Now by default we get a pretty ugly sort of gradient, so we're going to change a few things. The first thing I'll change is the start of the ramp. I'll place that in the middle, and the end of the ramp I'll place that at the far left. I'll change it from a linear ramp to a radial ramp, and I'm going to change the colors. So the start color I'll make a bright yellow, or a reasonably bright yellow, maybe a little bit of orange in there. And the end color, I'm going to use the color picker to select that first color, and then I'm just going to drag the color picker down to get something a little bit darker. I might even make that first bit a little bit brighter. There we go. So now we've got a reasonably subtle gradient that looks a bit more interesting than a solid color. The next thing I need to do is import my sound. So I'll just double click in this area here in the project window to bring up the import dialog, and I'll import the sound The Simpsons No TV and Beer.wave. I'll chuck that down into my timeline, and I'm just going to make the sound fade in because it is a little bit abrupt in terms of how it starts. So I'll jump to about 10 frames or so. I'll spin out the twirly for the sound, spin up the twirly for audio, and turn on animation for the audio levels, and it's going to create one at 0 dB, which is what we want. Then I'll step back in time to the beginning and ramp this all the way down. So now the sound is going to fade in from this point to this point. I'm going to do the same with the background as well. So with the background selected, I'm going to make this fade in. I'll hit T on the keyboard to bring up opacity. I'll move ahead to the same sort of point, about 10-11 frames in. I'll turn on animation, and then I'll go back and change that to 0. So now we get a fade in for both sound and vision. Now the first bit of this quote, if we listen to it, and we can easily listen to it by doing a RAM preview, that's going to be the ah bit. So we'll sort of skip ahead to where that sound actually starts. It's about just before 2 seconds in, and I'm going to create some new text. So the text tool is up the top here, or the type tool, or Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and T will create the text tool, and we'll do the in capitals. There we go. Now, because I've got caps lock on, it's gone into no render mode, so I'll just hit caps lock again to turn that off, and we get a preview. And I'll just place that somewhere in the middle. I can also use the title save guides as a way to help position my text on screen. So down here we've got show the title and action safe regions. So there we go. I'll just use that as a bit of a guide on how to center my text there. Now we want to make this text a little bit more interesting, so I'm going to make it vibrate so it sort of fits with the sound a little bit. So I'm going to use something called the wiggler to do this, but before I use that tool I need to animate some position keyframes. So P for position, turn on animation, and I'll just skip ahead maybe a second and a half, and I'll manually create another keyframe. Then I'm going to select both keyframes. I could do this by dragging over the top of them, or I could just click on position, selects both those keyframes. And then I'm going to go to the wiggler. Now if you don't see this down here, it should be an option under the window menu at the top here, so wiggler. Make sure that's showing, and what we're going to do is create some noise that's jagged, because we want this to be quite a jagged sort of animation. I want it to happen quite frequently, so 20 times per second with a magnitude of, well, let's say 50 pixels, and we'll apply that. Now this creates some random wiggle or movement to this text, so it creates this sort of crazy animation here that will hopefully fit in with my sound effect. So let's preview this. Okay, I didn't quite get the positioning right, so I'm going to zoom in and just drag these keyframes back so they start a little bit earlier. Let's try again. Still not quite right, a little bit further. Alright, now the next thing is this text is at the start and doesn't look quite right because we're fading in our background, so I'm going to make this fade in as well. Shift T so you can see the opacity property as well, and I'll turn that on. And I'll skip ahead to just after the first wiggle, and I'll create another keyframe. I'll step back to the first one and make that 0 so it's faded in. So now we get this fade in as it starts to vibrate. Now I want to fade out after it's finished vibrating, so I'll select both these keyframes, copy them, Command or Control C depending on your platform, and paste them. Except they're around the wrong way. So what I need to do is go up to the animation menu at the top here, go to keyframe assistant and time reverse keyframes, and that will just switch them around. So now instead of going from invisible to visible, it's now going from visible to invisible to create a fade out. So let's have a look at that. And I hit the wrong button there. Let's try again. There we go. And my phone's ringing in the background. Just going to ignore that. Sorry, Jeremy. Talk to you later. All right, moving on. The next bit we want is the part where Marge comes in and says, what does she say? Well, maybe it's Homer. Let's double check our example.
Marge, what do you think, Marge?
Okay, so what do you think, Marge, with Homer there? We'll skip ahead until we find that bit of sound, which is just before about 3 seconds. And I'm just going to lock this first bit of text because we don't need to work with that anymore. And I'm going to create some new text, so Command T or Control T to bring up text tool or type tool. And the first bit of text is going to be so. It's a bit small, so I'm going to hit S on the keyboard to bring up my scale, and I'll ramp that up so it's nice and big, and let's reposition it so it's in the middle there. Now I want this to start off the screen and then come flying onto the screen. So what I'll do is I'll turn on position, and I'm just going to create a keyframe and then move that back so we have this flying onto the screen. Let's check that out. Alright, so the so is coming in at about the right stage. I want it to stay on the screen for a moment and then fly off to the left. So I'll copy this keyframe and paste it so it stays stationary for a moment, and then we'll move ahead and we'll make it go flying off the side of the screen there. There we go. Let's preview that, and I can preview just the region by changing my work area. So we'll just zoom in our work area so we're not previewing the whole thing every time. Okay, I could probably speed this up a little bit, so I'll just bring those keyframes in and we'll move that across. Alright, just about correct. The next section of text, again referring back to our example video. We'll skip ahead. Where are we? What do you think, Marge? So what do you think is the next bit of text we need to create? Chuck that over there. So again, with the text tool, we'll go what, and I want this in capitals. And again, since I hit the caps lock key, it's gone to the no preview mode. That's fine. What I'm going to do is duplicate. So click on the text and duplicate, Control D or Command D on a Mac. Duplicate for do you think. And then I'm going to double click on this one. So it's selected, and type in do. Then I'll double click on this one and type in you. And double click on this one and type in think. So you can't really see up here, but down here you can see that it has updated each of those bits of text. I'll hit caps lock again to turn the preview back on. And now I can start to position things however I want. So you needs to go down here, think needs to go over here, and do over here. And we'll just position those so they look about right. Now I might use the alignment tools to help me with this. So down the bottom here, we've got lines, so I'll horizontally align just to make sure they're together, horizontally align. And it's not quite right, but we won't spend too much time on it now. Now I'm just going to make this text sort of pop in as Homer says the words. So let's have a look at what we can do here. We'll just preview it. What do you think? So it's about there. We'll bring each of these layers forward so they start at the appropriate place. So one word after the other. And a quick way to bring the layers forward to where the playhead is to click on a layer and then hit the left square bracket on the keyboard, and that will move it ahead like so. Alright, how does this look? Let's just preview it.
What do you think, Mark?
Okay, it's not quite right.
What do you...
It needs to be a bit further across. And this is all playing to get it right and previewing and playing some more.
What do you think, Mark? What do you think, Mark?
That's about right. Okay, cool. Now, the other thing I want to do is use something known as parenting, because this text flies across from the left, and actually rather than just having the what appear, I'm going to have that fly in from the left as well. So I might just bring this back. Now, to make sure that this bit of what text comes in as the so disappears off the screen, what I'm going to do is parent it to the so piece of text. So to do that, this little pick whip thing, I'm going to grab that and drag it onto so. And what that will do is, now if I preview the animation, you can see that the two are linked. So as so goes off the screen, what follows it on. So I didn't need to animate the position of this, I just pick whipped it to the so text, and that means that it's going to follow along with the same animation. So that means it just saves me a bit of time, and it's a little bit more efficient in terms of the way of working. Let's preview this.
What do you think, Mark? What do you think, Mark? What do you think, Mark?
Okay, that's looking about right. Now we need the Marge bit, and I'm just going to duplicate one of these bits of text. Type in Marge. Oops, I can't see what I'm doing. M-A-R-G-E, there we go. Now that needs to be positioned somewhere in the middle eventually, but I'm actually going to put it all the way down the bottom here. And that way I can use parenting again to create this next animation. But before I do that, I'm going to also parent all the other bits of text to my so piece of text. And then finally, I'm going to parent the Marge piece of text to that so piece of text as well. Now, to make the Marge bit visible, I'm going to have to animate the so text again, which is over here. It's this little white bounding box. So I'll do another keyframe, so it means that it's going to lock that so text in position for this duration. And then I'll move ahead a few keyframes, and I'll actually move this up, and you can see because of parenting everything's moving with it. And I probably haven't got it quite right, so I'll just move until that's off the screen. And then I'll move Marge back down. So I can make modifications to Marge independently of so. So whenever I move, I'm saying so a lot here, whenever I move the so text, everything else moves. But if I want to, I can just move the Marge text. That's because Marge is a child of the so parent, which might not make a lot of sense, but as you start to play with it a bit more, it should hopefully solidify in your mind. So what have we got so far? Let's play it back. Let's RAM preview.
What do you think, Marge? What do you think, Marge?
Alright, not perfect, but we're getting there. Now we could add to the overall effect by using motion blur. So recall that if you want to turn motion blur on, you can turn it on for each layer using this little toggle. And then you can turn it on for the composition with this main switch here. Let's have a look with motion blur. Takes longer to render with motion blur, but makes it look a bit more interesting. Okay, welcome back to part 2. Now we're going to create this next bit where Marge spins around and Homer says all I need is a title.
All I need is a title.
Okay, so first thing we need to do is spin Marge around. I'm just going to play it back so I can get a sense of where the audio is. So all starts about here, so I want to have Marge rotated by about here. And I want it to start rotating maybe about here. So I've brought up position, scale, and rotation. So P for position, Shift S for scale, and Shift R for rotation. I'll turn on animation for all those things. We'll move ahead, and we're going to rotate Marge 90 degrees, and we will scale her up. And we'll reposition her like so, something like that. Let's preview that. Yep, the timing on that's pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is add the all I need is a title. So type tool, all, I'm going to duplicate it, Control D or Command D, double click, I, duplicate, double click, need, oops, is, duplicate, a, duplicate, title, oops, I spelled that incorrectly, T-I-T-L-E, there we go. Now, these are going to be a bit too big, so I'm going to scale them down to about 50%, just so they fit across this area here. Now I just need to position them, so I'll hit V on the keyboard to go back to the move tool. I'll start to just lay them out like so. Whoops, accidentally clicked on the background. That background's annoying. Let's lock that so I can't accidentally click on it anymore. All needs to be at the start. A title is a I, all I. All I need is a title. And I'll just select each of those objects and we'll align and just make sure they're aligned. Yes, they are. Good. Now I want them all to start at about this point, so I'm going to hit the square left bracket, and then I'm going to move ahead just a little bit because I want my my layout to finish like this. So I'll hit P and animate the position. Oops, let's just select them all again. P. So they're going to finish here, and then I'm going to move back from this point, and I'm going to actually animate it up, which you'll see why in just a sec, and then a few more frames, and then I'll move them all down so they're hidden behind the M. And let's preview this. So B to start my preview section, N to end my preview section.
All I need.
Alright, the speed's pretty good, but obviously we want one word coming up at a time in sync with the audio. So I'm just going to roughly do this. We'll just quickly spread this out. Extend my preview area so I'll be able to see it. Let's play this back.
All I need is a title.
Yeah, it's about right.
All I need is a title.
Could be a little bit better, but we won't dwell on that right now. So all I need is a title. Now, what's next? Alright, so we spin the whole thing around and then we do an inverted version of the text. I was thinking along the lines of blah blah blah. So before I spin this big M around, I want to make sure all this text that we've just created goes along for the ride. So again, we're going to parent it. So we'll select all those things, pick a pick whip and move it to Marge. So now whenever we make a modification to Marge, all these items will come along for the ride. I'm going to skip ahead until the bits where it just concludes saying title.
All I need is a title.
So about here. And I'm going to add manually some keyframes for each of these elements, and then I'll move ahead a few frames again. And now we're going to spin Marge. So she's at 90 degrees. Let's make her at negative 90 degrees. And I'm going to need to reposition like so. So now you can see all the text is attached because we parented it, and we get this rotation effect. And I might even move that a little further so we get a slower animation.
All I need is a title. All I need.
That's about right.
All I need is a title.
Alright, now we need to create the next set of text, which if I have a quick look is going to be, I was thinking along the lines of. Now we want to get sort of an inverted effect, so I'm going to actually change the text color. Type tool, and I'm going to actually lock these things for now so I don't accidentally click on them. I'll also lock Marge just for the moment. I for the first word, and I'll just change the color of that so it's somewhat similar to the background, so it looks like it's almost a cutout, maybe something like that. And I'm going to have to duplicate that, or I was duplicate thinking along the lines of colon. Again, these are all too big, so I'm going to scale them down so they all fit. Let's try 40 and see if that works. So we'll move that to the end there. Lines. I was thinking along, okay, so it doesn't quite fit, it's too big. We'll select everything and let's drop it down to 30 maybe. And forgot those ones, let's add 30 and 30. I was thinking along the lines of, probably got a bit more space, let's move those out. Okay, I'll select everything, align it, there we go. And that's looking about right. Let's check our example.
I was thinking along the lines of...
Okay, so these are just appearing. There's nothing really all that special happening. I'll select all these elements and make them start. Left square bracket. Let's preview.
All I need is a title. I was thinking...
Okay, so the eye starts roughly there. And again, I'm just going to do this very roughly just to get a sense of how it feels. Let's have a look.
I was thinking along the lines of no.
That's not too bad actually.
I was thinking along the lines of...
Okay, could be tweaked, but we'll deal with that just for now. And the next bit's going to be rotating, so this is a flat sort of plane. So again, we're going to go back to rotating our Marge, and remember that we want to parent all these items first. I'm just going to select them all and press U, just to get rid of all the keyframe data, because it's kind of getting in the way at the moment. Do the same with this, U, just to close all those up. Select all this data we've just created, all these bits of text, and again parenting back to Marge, and I'll manually create keyframes for the position and the scale, and I'll move ahead a couple of frames, and we'll rotate her so it goes like so, and then we'll reposition, and we'll probably scale up a little bit too. Let's compare with our video. So okay, like that. So we'll move that down, probably scale up some more as well. And let's probably scale even more. Not quite so much. There we go, something like that. Yeah, it's good. We'll go with that. Now, because we haven't added extra rotation frames here, we now get this slight change in the rotation of our property. And I'm just going to go back and delete this scale keyframe, and this will mean that as that previous bit of text comes up, it's going to sort of zoom in, but it's zooming too fast. So what I will do is move to this stage at 705, and I'll move that across so I can see that first bit of text pop up. Still not quite right, so what I'll do is get it to pause at that stage for just a moment by copying that position frame and pasting it later on. And maybe just move it back a little bit as well. So now we rotate and we start to zoom in. I don't like the look of that. Let's delete it and try without. Let's just move this one down, copy, paste. Okay, that's a bit better. Let's preview that and see what it looks like.
I was thinking along the lines of...
Okay, so it's a bit rough, but I'll leave you guys to fiddle with that until you get something you like. Now we're up to this top stage, and I'll pause the video here and we'll create a part 3. Okay, we're back for part 3, and that is this bit here, where we have the no beer, no TV.
No TV and no beer make Homer something something.
Okay, so a few things about this. We have the no in big text, and then we have TV and we reused the no by sort of shaking it to bring attention to it. Then beer, make, Homer, and something something repeats. So we sort of have that throbbing in and out. Chuck that out of the way. So again, we need some more text. Lots of text today, and I'm just going to lock all these layers so they don't upset me. And alright. Let's just have a look at how we're going so far. Let's check out the entire thing.
What do you think, Marge? All I need is a title. I was thinking along the lines of no TV and no...
Okay, looking pretty good so far. We'll go back to this point. Okay, we'll start here. Type tool, a big no. We'll scale that up so it is quite large. Reposition it, maybe not quite so large. Okay, we need some other aspects. We need TV. We want that to be white. I want that to be smaller. So let's bring it down to 65%. Actually, it's a bit big. Let's make it 50. We'll position it, duplicate, double click, not beer, and duplicate, double click, and beer. There we go. Duplicate, double click, make, duplicate, double click, Homer. Oops, not home, Homer. Duplicate, double click, something. Alright, we've got all our aspects. Let's position them. So something needs to go down here. Homer, okay, and we're seeing a problem already. It's too big. We'll deal with that in just a sec. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. And I'm going to make all these a little smaller as well. 40 perhaps. Alright, let's try this. And make Homer something. Still a little bit too far off. Move all this across. There we go, now we fit. That's better. Alright, again, alignments. Just to make sure they're all right. Cool. Alright, selecting all these elements, making them start at a certain point. And they're going to have to appear one after the other. So we have no, followed by TV, followed by and then no happens again, then beer, make, Homer, something. Let's preview that.
Along the lines of no TV and...
That was a bit slow, try again.
Along the lines of no TV.
A little bit slow.
Along the lines of no TV and no...
And...
Along the lines of no TV and no...
Okay, so he says no again, so just to accentuate that no, I'm just going to do some position animation, P, turn on position from there to there, just very briefly. Create another keyframe, click on position to select both. We'll use the wiggler again. We'll use the same settings as before. I've got no idea what this will look like. Yeah, it's alright, let's preview that.
Along the lines of no TV and no beer make...
Okay, that's about right. It's a little bit off, but we'll deal with that. And we want beer to come in. Make Homer something.
Along the lines of no TV and no beer make hope.
Beer is taking its time. We'll get beer in there. That, and that.
And no beer make hope. And no beer make... And no beer make... And no beer make Homer. And no beer make Homer something.
Okay, something, we're going to have that fade in, so select it, T for opacity. We'll create a keyframe, we'll go back and we'll make that 0, we'll go forward and we'll make that 0 as well. So now it sort of fades in to throb. And I'll zoom in a bit with the plus key, and I'm going to make it an easy, I'm going to make it an easy ease. I'll right click on it and go easy ease. I'll switch to the motion graph and I'm going to spread this out. It just means that it's going to be visible for a longer period and fade out quickly. So now we get this effect where we throb. Let's play it in real time.
And no beer make Homer something.
Okay, so he says something twice. I'm going to copy and paste that set of keyframes.
And no beer make Homer something.
Cool, nailed it. Alright, so that is a bit of a rough but still the basic techniques for creating this animation. The rest of the animation we're going to leave up to you guys. So have a play, experiment, see what you can come up with a text animation. This is very similar to the motion graphics assignment. So if you can at least get something somewhat similar to what you've seen today, you're well on your way to your next assignment. Thanks guys.